welcome to the Pulse Collective podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the PCP, otherwise known as the Pulse Collective podcast. I'm your host, Shahrukh Ansari. If you're new to the show or just listening audibly, we are Pulse Marketing Collective. We partner with businesses all across the country to help multiply their revenue and streamline their business operations through AI-powered systems. If you're looking for proven ways to help track more clients, boost your customer retention, and also elevate your overall customer experience, you're here in the right place. The PCP is where we feature business leaders and entrepreneurs to help uncover their journeys, lessons, and vision for the future of their industries. Now, with all that out of the way, I'm very, very excited because today I'm actually joined by Jennifer Mihajlov, the Chief Commercial Officer over at Qualee. It's a SaaS company, and Jennifer has led high-performing commercial teams across CPG and SaaS. And at Qualee, she's actually helping organizations close the feedback loop and build belonging with a mobile-first employee experience platform. Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. That was a great introduction. I don't think I need to
We always do our research here. Alrighty. Well, Jennifer, can you kind of kick us off? I know I gave a high-level intro. Just share us a little bit about your background and what Qualee is all about.
Yeah. So most of my background was spent in CPG for about 20 years, but I found myself in the last 2.5 years focused on the tech world, specifically Qualee, which is, like you said, about leading teams and really digging into that, what you referred to as the close back loop. It's really collecting data of what's going on with your people. And it's more than that, because lots of companies decide to collect the data, but then what do they actually do with it? And Qualee is really trying to help make sure that they have a plan and that it's actionable and quick, because we all know you can collect data after 6 months, but it's almost not useful at that point. We're moving so fast in this world, and we want to make sure that it's real time data that they're collecting, but also getting to the point of predictive analysis so we can catch something before it happens.
Very, very cool. I think the recruitment and just HR space in general in today's day and age is changing so rapidly. I know as people even just close to me, every time you're trying to apply for a job, it's hell to actually find somebody. And once you finally get that first call, the entire recruitment process takes forever to hear back from. It causes a lot of tension on both sides of the equation. But it's really cool to see how you guys are kind of bringing that to market. When it comes to Qualee, let's dive into your story a little bit. Tell everybody about your roots. I know you have an extensive background even prior to getting here. So what brought you to this point?
So funny enough, I actually started my entire career in HR. So this was a little bit of a little bit of a full circle moment. As I started to realize it, I worked for Bear Stearns when I was in college, and it really taught me how to be a model employee, what it is that managers and supervisors in the company are looking for from their employees. So it kind of set me on a great task. A lot of other information I learned also along the way of sort of how to lead a business and think about margin and profitability when you're doing that. Everything down to the tools and things that you use and being mindful of that. And then I ended up working in advertising. I worked at Self Magazine for a few years, and then another local parenting magazine, because I found myself, there was a sales calling. Wasn't sure exactly what it was I was going to be selling yet necessarily, but that's sort of how I just found my groove. And then one day I got a call from my best friend from kindergarten, and she told me that her sister was sick with cancer, and she did a little research and found out that her sister was diagnosed with breast cancer from environmental causes. And back in 2004, when we had gotten this information, there wasn't a lot of information as to what that actually meant. So we started to do a little research. And in 2006, we launched EcoMe, which was a line of cleaning products, very clean cleaning products, meaning they were food grade ingredients. You could drink them. They were vinegar based, baking soda, olive oil, all the things that we are okay to put in our body, well, let's clean with them, because that's what they did back in the day. It wasn't till many, many, many years later where we had these very toxic industrial strength cleaners come along. So we launched this company and we did everything from manufacturing to development to lab testing. We were our own HR people, our own lawyers, sales and marketing, everything, soup to
Every
nuts,
hat.
every single hat. And we worked on 2 different coasts, which was really great because we managed to cover a large gamut of the day. That's why we're also friends too. So I think that's important. And we ended up building this company to sell, and we sold it in 2014. It was just, you can't learn enough in a school or working for somebody as you do when you have your own company.
Yeah. No, for sure, for sure. It's cool because I feel like you've actually taken such a unique stand. Like a lot of people either start in one space and I've seen people completely pivot altogether, but you started and now you've kind of worked your way through like so many different avenues and now you're back to where you kind of started from, but
So
obviously doing something completely different than when you first began. So that's kind of what I want to go into now. Is like, what does your day to day today look like in terms of being like such a commercial leader over at Qualee? What's the responsibilities that you're actually overseeing?
yeah, and it really taught me, going from job to job, what the difference is in corporate environments or an entrepreneurial environment. All of those, they're vastly different, but at the end of the day, is what I do every day. It's about strategy. It's about thinking about tomorrow and being forward thinking and understanding how every decision is made needs not just a sales hat, if you will, obviously being commercial. Yeah, we need to drive revenue. Sure, that's great. But at what expense are we doing that at? And there's a whole, thought process that goes into closing a deal. Will this be profitable, right? That fun P word that a lot of people forget about. So it's about, finding new avenues. I'm also, because I had my own company, I'm always thinking of what other avenues can we do? A product is a product and that's great, but how else can we sell this? Well, what about a licensing agreement? What about a private label? What about, what other ways are there to do this? And that's another part of how I spend my day. I do often get involved in PR, which I think is really important. The idea of thought leadership. Who is running the company? What are they doing? That's just as important today as what the product stands for. So that's a lot of what I do on a day to day.
No, for sure. I think it's cool because you bring an entrepreneurial background to an otherwise very like, I think in corporate, and the reason why, even when I was there, obviously not as extensive as like when you were there, I would always see that people in positions of authority, they kind of just rinse and recycle the same theoretical like processes of doing things that have been happening for the last 20, 30 years. And it's really rare. I've probably met a handful of people that have kind of like that out of the box type of approach. Like you coming in and you're saying, yeah, we have licensing models that we can bring into the game. We have this, we have that. It's a different approach altogether. So for like a young entrepreneur who maybe isn't at the point of actually launching their own company, doesn't have the capital, doesn't have the experience, don't even know what they're doing. I think people are scared to get into a job and now you're comfortable. But I think you learned a lot from mentors or other people that you worked with earlier, and that brought you to that point. So, what are some things that you can give to a young entrepreneur to be like, you know what? That might just be a step on your journey to your end game, but it's not necessarily like derailing you from getting there. Like, what are some things you can share?
Yeah, I think that's great. I always say, first of all, if it was easy, everybody would do it. So it's not easy. And you have to be dedicated and there has to be a fire in your belly. It can't just be, oh, I want to make a lot of money, right? That's just not going to carry you through the day, right? So you really have to be passionate about what it is you're doing. I think you have to take risks, whether or not you actually realize they're risks. Just being an entrepreneur is a risk. So that's important. You can't be comfortable. It's not comfortable. It's just not. Asking a million questions to anybody and everybody, because yeah, you're gonna learn most of it by trial and error. most of the failures are what sticks with people, what makes you learn how to pivot. I think that that's the most important thing I learned is how to pivot, because things don't go your way all the time and you have to be able to rebound really quickly and figure out another alternative. So, those are
It's
the
the it's the most uncertain thing you will ever do. It's the most rewarding thing you will ever do in terms of the journey. But even for example, for myself, when I first launched our consulting practice, like for the first year and a half, it's like every day you're waking up, you have no idea what's on the other side, but you're just kind of taking micro actions just to see if something's going to stick. And I don't think it was until I want to honestly say just in the past 12 months where we got out of that loop of just constantly every day doing the same thing. And for example, for us, I come from a sales background. I'm excited to talk about sales with you because I know you do too. But we were kind of in that same rabbit hole of, let's pick up the phones, let's just call a bunch of people, call a bunch of leads, tell them what we do, try to get some time with them. The whole bam fam thing, like, you book a meeting at the end of a call, like, but it really came to our realization once we kind of got together and we're like, none of this is working. The market has evolved to a point that everybody can see right through the BS at this point. So if you're just sounding like everyone else, it doesn't work. And our strategy completely changed. So what we started doing when we started doing any form of outreach, for example, we're no longer just calling somebody to tell them this is what we do. We actually like to either provide them with something first. So it'll either be like, this is a piece of research we found relative to like what your company is doing that might be helpful for you. If it is, can we get 15 minutes just to talk about it? And then that might stick a little bit. Email campaigns, they get thousands of emails every day. What are you providing them? So like we've done things like, for example, we'll record some clips for you. We'll do this, we'll do that. We just recently for one of our clients had like an industry report for their potential end user that we're like, we'll build this report. We just need to get on calls with potentially your ICP. Your ICP will share some insights. We'll build this report out. And in exchange for their time, once the report's ready, we'll give that to you. So a lot of people now are interested in hearing these new approaches. So I kind of want to hear from your take, like how has your sales process evolved? Like just your business development mindset, like over the next couple of years, it's going to continue to change with AI. So how are you doing it now? And how do you see it changing?
Great question. We did all of the things that you just said. It's how you start, and I don't answer my phone if I don't recognize the number. Of course not. I can see through, a forwarded email. Hey, I saw this. Jen would be really interested in that, and then it gets forwarded. We've tried it all. Really at the end of the day, it's like you said, it's about providing data. Data works. People need it. Businesses cannot operate without it. So the more that you can provide, the better attention that you're going to have. And you're also coming with something already. So it's a need, it's a solution, and it's a way to get it going. So we have a newsletter with thousands and thousands of people that signed up for it and want it. So that's great. We share thoughts all the time on our social platforms, so that's really important. So it can't just be an email. We learned it has to be sort of a triple threat, if you will, also, so that your name starts to get familiar. I always liken it to you get a new car and now all of a sudden you notice how many of that car is on the road. It becomes familiar, right? You didn't notice before because it wasn't personal, right? So that's kind of how we try and go about. And it's about, what's happening moving forward. Unfortunately, sometimes I think we people do start to see through those types of things, or maybe it's not information that isn't not relevant, but that they can already get, right? So I think it's just about staying on top of trends and what's happening and just continuously being that source so that it goes back to solving a problem that they have, being a solution provider, watching the words that you say so that we're not here to be negative. It's all about the positive and what can we offer to take your business to another level.
I think you hit the nail on the head. The biggest thing I always see with most business owners or just even marketing teams is a lot of times you're reaching out to people with a solution without knowing what the problem even is. And the best advice that I actually got early on in my career was he's like a SaaS. He's actually opened multiple companies, but he's a SaaS owner right now. And they essentially build AI agents in the customer service management space. And the best advice that I got from him actually was when they started and launched their company, they did not perfect their product. They actually took the product to market and they listened to the feedback prior to getting anything themselves. So once they actually started talking to their ideal customer, their customers will tell them. If you reach out to them without trying to sell them on things, they'll tell you, like, this is what we're looking for. This is what we're struggling with. And they took all that information over the next 6 to 12 months and put that back into the R&D side of things. And they perfected their product. And once they finally started like launching, it was so much easier to market. So I think it's really cool. You touched on one thing though that I want to get into, multi-channel approach to anything that you do. So it could be sales, it could be marketing. What are the channels right now that you are finding the most success in? And what are some things that you might be struggling with in terms of your sales and marketing?
So great. So it depends who you're going after, right? So the demographics for the social campaigns are vastly different. We're actually partnering with a new business, which is very interesting, which is our first B2C and B2B, right? We've been solely B2B at Qualee. So now this is both. So this is an interesting time for us because we're really trying to tap into the TikTok market. And I love TikTok. My kids love TikTok. It's about, just being that sort of on the same line, so that it's not here or here. It doesn't feel like a sell, it feels like a share. And that's what I think is a big change from, obviously LinkedIn, right? We're there for business. Let's provide business information, have to be there. You know, emails when you have specific information to talk about. I don't believe necessarily in, like we said, that mass um
Brand pray.
exactly
Yeah, literally.
exactly. Like, maybe you really take the time. I do believe this too. It used to be just blow up everybody, right? And probability. Hopefully you can cross your fingers. And if you send out, 10,000 emails, you'll get 4% or 2% or whatever crazy number that is. Now it's really about less and more targeted. Talk, research the people that you want, find out what's happening in their world, be specific and intentional in your emails night and day, right? Uh, so that I think is really important. And then, we're like excited and fun about the partnership with the TikTok because that's the fun part of this stuff. We understand that there's, 5 generations in a workforce right now. So that's never happened before. And one of the things that Qualee was really focused on is how do we get the boomers and the Gen Z to offer and talk, because they both have unbelievable things to offer. That's why they're both employed, right? And they see things differently. But how do we get them to talk? Can it be that we communicate with all these generations the same way? Maybe, maybe not. But at least there's availability on how we can do that and go about it and have a little fun with it as well. And I think that's really important too.
I find that cool that you're like, I'm actually excited about that, seeing how that plays out for you guys, the B2C branch. I think a lot of people, especially like companies similar to you, they actually don't take advantage of that because as a person that's looking for a job, I guarantee a lot of people will find value in software or just anything. Just like, it's not just the employer, but a lot of employees also are looking for that. In terms of your marketing, one question I wanted to touch on was you mentioned a difference between your B2B and your B2C. B2C, of course, you're introducing TikTok, all this UGC content and things that you can do to actually get in front of a end user. For B2B, what I've noticed personally, and this is kind of going to be a little controversial, is a lot of people run Meta ads and Google ads and things to get in front of other business users. I've never seen a lot of success with that, personally speaking. And I think the way you actually get in front of business owners is finding out where they are. And a lot of these business owners are not going to be scrolling Instagram to find out a potential solution to their problem. A lot of them you'll either find them through email or you'll find them through some type of inbound funnel that they've created either through their website. Like you're a customer to them and you're reaching out to them as kind of like a potential solution provider. There's just different ways I've seen for B2C, definitely Instagram, Facebook, Meta ads. Like all these people are on social media, so they work. Is that what you've seen too on your side?
So the fun, it's just amazing how things happen. Last night, I saw Lamborghini doesn't advertise on TV because people who drive Lamborghinis don't watch TV. They're out and about. Okay. Exactly what you just said. You have to meet people where they're at. That is how you're going to get them. So we talked about, wanting to maybe attract C-suite people by doing billboard ads in Delta Sky One, things like that. They have really cool, like very simple, because people aspire to be certain things, right? So are we creating, and I think it really depends on your mission statement, right? Because on some level, yeah, we want that aspiration feel, but Qualee was based on the fact that we want everybody to be able to do it, whether you're a starting company or you're an enterprise, because at the end of the day, we're about the employees. So it really we had to balance because we could have all these different messages, and that's really important too. You can't have all these different messages because then people start to say, well, who are you? Are you trying to just be what I want you to be? Because where's the authenticity in that? And so it's been very difficult. So, I think from that marketing standpoint, we do ads when our competition is being searched because we want to be at least part of the conversation, right? That's it. That's kind of all we're doing. We're not, free for alling it just in case somebody may want to look for this. You have to go back to be intentional again. So that's kind of how we're focused on the marketing piece.
Very cool. Very cool. I want to take a little bit of a more macro lens now. We've kind of been focusing on obviously your sales strategy, how it's evolved, your marketing strategy, how it's evolved. I want to really look at now, we kind of started the conversation when you first had your business before you even got into this. You were wearing all these hats, the manufacturing, the marketing, the sales, like everything is being worn by a lot of times the founder. Honestly, when I started my consulting practice, I was the one picking up the phones. I was the one doing the content. I was the one doing all that. I think AI has changed how a lot of us work and it's really streamlined a lot and it's made it honestly a lot easier. I know a lot of people look, especially in the HR space, what I've seen is they think their jobs get displaced by it. But from a business standpoint, there's a lot of opportunity. Like I've seen people who like I think I referenced this on an earlier episode, but I'll say it now because it's relevant. But my past company that I was at IBM, they laid off their entire HR department and replaced them with an HR bot. But after they did that, they realized they had to hire 2 times the amount of people that they laid off just to manage everything that comes with it. But
Yeah.
it streamlined everything and made the process easier. So I think as a net, you're actually in a positive in terms of opportunities that are being created by it. So I kind of want to get your take. Where do you see the SaaS space headed specifically over the next 5 to 10 years? And how do you see AI changing the game, especially over at Qualee right now?
So, like you said, AI has made things easier. But to me, there's two components to everything. There's process and there's people. And there always will be. I don't ever see that going away. So if you can embrace the AI side of things and the SaaS side of things to make your process easier, then you can be that better at what we all refer to as culture these days, and we've almost taken that word and greenwashed it out a little bit because that was really important for a long time. Culture, culture, culture. Great. So you have an amazing mission statement. That's awesome. Or you give back a pair of shoes every time somebody buys one. Great. Okay, but that what else are you doing to really walk the walk, right? So I think you can't just lay off people and expect not to have ramifications for that, because obviously everybody needs to streamline and understand how much money is being spent and show an ROI. And I think for decades, HR was not responsible for showing an ROI. They could spend lots of money on lots of things and make it quote unquote easier for compliance purposes and everything that legal loved. And that's great. And make sure that it's secure so that our, CIO is happy. But in all of that, they actually forgot about the people. So much so, now people are hiring chief people officers because we actually forgot what HR was all
Yeah.
about in the first place. We went and it became about the company. And there's a lot of pushback lately about people saying HR doesn't work for the people, they work for the company, and how uncomfortable that feels that they don't really have anybody to go to if there's an issue. So what happens? They don't. They either stay and they're maybe quietly quitting, or they leave. What are we doing? So that's really what Qualee's there for, is to blend that process and people together in a way where everybody gets their jobs done, but people feel heard, and make them basically say, "We hear you, and here's what we're going to do about it," and keep it coming. Because at the end of the day, we talk about the Gen Z, there's like every aspect is B2C these days, because Gen Z
Right.
really doesn't believe um, the employers about this is a great place to work. They believe their cohorts, they believe their friends, they believe social media more than anything. So if you can make ambassadors of the people that work there, everybody's going to scream, come, this is a great place to work. And, we really want to make sure also that we are providing sort of certification for people. And that's why we partnered with something called Leading Workplace. And it's about the culture of places. And you can't just buy it to have it. You need to be certified. And it could be taken away if you're not following the right path, which I think is really important, because people will trust that sort of third party validation that people are doing what they're supposed to. And they spend so much money on talent to find it. I mean, that's how we started the conversation. Well, what are you doing to keep it?
Right. Right. It's so interesting. I'm like, I wish that companies honestly like Qualee existed probably like 5 years ago when I needed some help at that time. But I think it's one of those things where the future of employment, corporate America, just employees, like everybody's mindset has shifted, and you hit the nail on the head. Like, I don't think anybody trusts when you're going into an interview and the employer is like, yeah, we have an amazing, like, together collaborative culture, like everybody wins. Like, you're just like, okay, cut through all the BS, like just lay it out to me how it is. And I think that's super important. It's not even just navigating the recruitment process, it's like having your voice to be heard during that period. I think that's a huge gap in the market. So the fact that you guys are helping with that, whoever's listening to this, like, I think that's very interesting. I do know we're coming up to the end of our time. So I want to kind of hop into a different conversation just in terms of where do you see Qualee right now, 6 to 12 months from now, based upon all the strategies that you put together and your kind of forecast for the next year? Where do you want to be for the next 6 to 12 months to be successful for you?
Great. We collect so much data and so much information. So in a positive way, not in a privacy problem way, in a great way. So I really see us becoming an authority on what's happening, what's shaping the workforce as an authority, not just the nitty gritty of how to help somebody, and I did touch on the real time aspect of everything, but it's really about the predictive data also, and we're really capitalizing on that, and how to see things before it happens. Meaning, if your people are disconnected, here are the signs. How can we make them more connected? There's just so much loss and profitability for people when they're not fully showing up. And it doesn't just affect them, it affects their teams, and then it spins out of control. So I really want to focus, and I see that happening a lot with companies that, really are invested in making sure that their people are their top asset.
You hit it once again. I think when you invest in especially your top talent actually retains even better talent than when you actually go out yourself. So I think that's super. I've seen it firsthand. Like when I left my last job, the reason I left was exactly what you said. And it's the same case across the board. I want to kind of wrap up now with what we like to call like a segment called rapid fire really quick, where I kind of will throw a couple questions that are more personal and kind of just allows us to give some real advice for people. So let's kick it off. We'll do like two or three. So if you had to give one piece of advice that you got in your entire journey that kind of you carry to this day, what was that?
It's okay to say no.
How do you look at just your personal development up until this point and skill development? What was the one skill set you acquired early that allowed you to get to this level of success?
My ability to see things differently. I see things a few steps ahead, a little bit of a chess player mind. It's not just one move, it's the next move, it's the move after. And I think that was just ingrained in me, and I didn't realize what a skill set that would end up being for me.
And to wrap up, what we usually like to ask everyone is if you were 20-year-old Jennifer coming out of university, coming into this world, have no idea what to expect, especially with AI now in this new marketplace, what advice would you give yourself to set yourself up for success?
Learn what you don't are afraid of. Learn what you think you don't know. Go take a class. Don't just sit and be like, I'm not good at that. Go get good at it.
I think that's honestly like for everybody, you could be an entrepreneur. You could even just be showing up to your job. If your focus is to start your own business, if your focus is to really get a promotion at your workplace, you need to learn skills that other people don't have, because that's going to set yourself apart for whatever you're trying to do in life. It's not even just career, like your own personal relationships. If you're going a step further than what people expect, you're always going to be that person that everyone remembers. And I think that was honestly an amazing conversation, Jennifer. I appreciate you coming on. To wrap up, could you just tell us like what's next for you personally and where can people find you online?
I love it. Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn, certainly Jennifer Mihajlov, and I work at Qualee, so you can find me there as well. What's next for me? I keep my, everything open. I don't know what's next. I feel like you can see by my career that I've kind of just gone with what feels right. I've learned a lot. I've tried on it a lot of different hats. I think that makes me the best me because I sort of understand a lot of things, and I look forward to whatever's next.
I think the best thing everybody can take away from today is whatever your goal is, whatever your objective is, you can plan all you want, but 9 out of 10 times, the planning will be completely different than when you actually do it. So just focus on the execution piece and figure it out on the fly, and you'll actually get 10 times further than the person that wants to plan everything from step one.
I had an investor that said when we were looking to raise money, it's like you're flying the plane while building it. And I said, show me an entrepreneur that's not doing that.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, like you're basically pushing this rock up a mountain and you don't know when the mountain's going to peak out. You just have to keep pushing it. So, and it's going to keep coming back down on you. So it's a very uncomfortable process, but I think this was great. Jennifer, thanks so much again for your time, for coming on.
Appreciate.
I hope this was fun for you. It was super fun for me, and appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much.